So, very good evening, friends. Meeting after a very long time. It was a big gap, I know that, but it was not possible to conduct lectures because since holidays have been finished, there was tremendous rush in OPD, and I was alone. There was no helper to help me, and that's why it was not possible to conduct the sessions. So, since today we're going to start it again, and today we'll have both the sessions. At night, we'll have mathematical session also. So henceforth, we'll continue with our regular curriculum. We were there on with the chapter The Life, Health and Disease from the Stuart Close, the chapter number 6, where Stuart Close tried to explain the concepts of life, health and disease in detail. And while explaining that, he has taken the concept, explaining that how Hahnemann was way ahead to the peoples who were there along with him, and he has nearly about 80 years, 50 to 100 years ahead than those peoples, and whatever he has said, whatever he has explained without having any microscope, and still he has explained the concepts of disease followed by the modern science after 80 years or 100 years. So the discovery of comma bacillus, which Hahnemann have explained way back, Robert Koch have explained it in 1882. Uh, it was Hahnemann have explained it nearly about in 1805 regarding the cholera epidemic and how cholera gets developed, etc. So there were Robert Koch as well as the Pasteur who have explained all those things without taking the name of Hahnemann. No one knows whether they have read the Hahnemann literature or not, but there was one person, Dr. von Behring, who has directly explained about the diphtheria and its antidoxin, and he has explained the homeopathy was way ahead, and he explained the name of Hahnemann. Hahnemann was knowing all those things. So it was the Behring was very clear about his thoughts, and he was a genuine person who has explained about these. So we are there on page number 70, the first paragraph we have finished. Let us start with next one. I have dwelt somewhat about the subject, not only because it shows Hahnemann's priority and supremacy as an original investigator and thinker, but because we have in this scholar episode a complete illustration of homeopathic teaching in regard to the nature of disease. And what Close says that he don't want to show the supremacy of Hahnemann with the others, but he want to show that how the homeopathic thinking was there at that time during Hahnemannian time. It was very clear, and he was knowing each and everything. So that was the supremacy actually of Hahnemann. The first proposition is that disease is not thing but only a condition of a thing. That disease is only a changed state of health, a perverted vital action, and not any sense, material, or a tangible entity to be seen, handled, weighed, and although it may be measured. So here the concept of disease comes, and here the Hahnemann have explained that disease is not a thing which is measurable, a material thing which you can show, but this is a just altered state of health going from one state to the another state in the form of signs and symptoms, reflected in the form of signs and symptoms, and that is what is the disease. So disease is not the thing which one can show. It is the change of state of health at the dynamic level to the state of disease. So it was just immaterial entity which happens inside, reflected in the form of signs and symptoms. It is not an entity which can be weighed, which you can show to the world. Yes, this is disease. This is not like that. And this concept, if you are able to understand, then you will treat the disease at that specific level. If you go on finding it out disease or measuring disease in the form of some material, in the form of pathology, then you will not going to get cure, because you will not going to treat the real disease which is there in the dynamic plane. So even though the patient who comes to you with pathology, the disease not in the pathology, it is the end result of that disease. Disease is there in the dynamic plane, and which is also a dynamic. So once your concept regarding the disease is clear, then your thought in the treatment part becomes very clear. Those who think that that have been following me closely, warm in their interest in the indications of the comma bacillus as the cause of cholera, are doubtless puzzling their brains to reconcile that identification and demonstration with the statement that disease is not a thing but a condition of thing. Has it not been demonstrated that bacillus is a tangible thing? Those who think thus have overlooked an important point in my statement, and by so doing, have identified the conditioning and the condition, which is the violation of the rules of logic. So there are many people who say that here you are saying that comma bacillus is the cause of cholera, and then how can you say that it is a dynamic thing? Comma bacillus is the material. What Close says is very correct. Hahnemann have not said that it is only cause of the disease. Cholera is not caused only because of comma bacillus, unless and until the secondary causes are present. Unless and until the condition favorable for this is present. Then and then it is possible, otherwise it is not possible at all. So, unless and until the constitution is favorable, unless and until the predisposition, that is miasm, is favorable, unless and until the susceptibility is for it, and unless and until the environment of the patient is prone for it, this comma bacillus will not going to produce the cholera over there. And this is again one thing. All those, if they are present, then it means unless and until the disease state is present, then and then comma bacillus produces cholera. So things should be very clear in everyone's mind regarding the disease, and this is what he is explaining over there. This is the foundation which he is explaining. Once your foundation is clear, then you are going to treat, we are not going to kill the comma bacillus, you are going to treat the disease which is there in the dynamic plane and expressing in the signs and symptoms. And this is what one has to understand. Then what he says, the foundation is condition. Foundation is the condition for the house. But it is not the house nor the cause of the house. Much less is the house identical with the foundation. The bacillus is the proximate cause of cholera, but it is not cholera, nor the sole cause of cholera. It is only one of the several conditions. It is only one of the several conditions necessary for the production and propagation of cholera, all of which must be considered if we are to form just conclusions about nature of disease. For instance, there are sanitary conditions to be considered with all their numerous implications. There are social and moral conditions, including facilities and modes of transportation and intercommunication between the nations, communities, and individuals to be considered. There are also atmospheric and telluric conditions. It is to be noted that it was only after many trials of administration of bacillus cultures that one individual was found to be succumbed to the attack. With him, there was a condition of individual susceptibility, and that susceptibility was an essential condition for him, as it is in all such cases. Here, the concept becomes very clear. So even though you give the culture of a cholera bacillus to each and everyone, one of the person might suffer where the conditions are favorable. Otherwise, everyone will not going to suffer from the cholera. And there were many experiments done by the people before that also. They have consumed the cholera bacillus in the laboratories and never suffered from cholera because conditions were not favorable. So disease state was not earlier present, because of which they have not suffered from the cholera, even though they consumed the cholera bacillus. And this one has to understand. This is very, very, very useful thing one must learn. And these things are very essential things one must understand. Those who did not observe that point were caught napping, as many others have been when dealing with such subject. So these concepts should be very clear in everyone's mind. If they are clear, then you can answer everyone. So it is not just that cholera bacillus is the sole cause of the cholera. It is a half truth, but it is the one of the cause of the cholera that Hahnemann have explained way back without microscope. We must discriminate. Discriminate means to differentiate. Bhedabhed janne. We must discriminate between cause and effect, between the power and product, between that which acts and that which is acted upon. This is too important. We must understand what is exactly the cause and what is the effect. Very important. Cause might be anything, effect might be same. It depends between the power and product, between the what which acts and which is acted upon. If we are able to discriminate, then we will understand more clearly about the disease also. We must also learn to realize that the power which acts to cause and produce effects is always invisible. We see the wonders of realm of dynamics only with the eyes of mind. See the language. What he is saying, we see the wonders of realm of dynamics only with the eyes of mind. So things are dynamic, which you cannot visualize. You can understand, you can perceive. Only if you know you have that thinking capacity. If you are able to perceive, yes, definitely you are going to learn that. If you don't perceive, it is not possible. That's why he says we see the wonders of realm of dynamics only with the eyes of mind, not with naked eyes. We know the existence of force only by the its manifestations and phenomena. So if someone says that this much force he has applied, the force you cannot see. You can see the displacement after application. So the phenomena you can see, but you cannot see the force. We know gravity, chemical affinity, electricity, life, mind, health, disease only by their phenomena. If one says that show me electricity, you have to show the light which is reflection of electricity, but you cannot show the electrical energy, the entity which is dynamic. Same is true for the health, same is true for the disease, the same is true for the chemical affinity, same is true for the gravity. We must not let the phenomena which we perceive with our organs of sensation blind us to the existence of invisible power which produces them, nor think that the invisible is the all of existence. So this invisible power we have to perceive, we have to understand. Every time this power we cannot see with the eyes, we can see it only with the phenomena. We can see only the material, but we cannot see the immaterial. The tumor, the eruption, the ulcer, the pain, and the fever, which we see or feel, or the germ or bacillus, which the microscope reveals, is not the all of the disease. Very clearly, he is explaining. This is not the complete disease. This is not the exact real disease. Dis-ease. The word is very clear. Earlier there was ease, there was a state of health. This state of health is reflected into dis-ease condition. The ease has disturbed, and that's why it reflects. So only there was a state of health which was reflected and changed into the state of disease at the dynamic level and reflected in the form of some signs and symptoms. That is an expression, the phenomena, but not the disease. One must learn all those concepts. Those are very essential to understand. Back of these lies the substantial, all pervading life principle of the organism, which primarily acts and acted upon. So, behind all those things, behind the health, behind the disease, what is present is the life principle. The life principle in every one of us is not visible. What is visible is our body. What is visible is that I am talking and you are listening. What is visible is that expressions on the face, but you cannot see my vital principle. You cannot see my soul. You cannot see my force, but expression of it you can see. The reflection of it you can see. And this concept of dynamic disease and dynamic health, one must understand. One must understand the realm of dynamics with the help of mind. This is very essential. If you are able to understand those concepts, then you will definitely know what to treat. Why he is explaining all those things again and again? Only to make your concepts very clear regarding the disease. Next paragraph is very important to understand. Functional or dynamic change always precedes the tissue changes. Internal changes takes place before the external signs appear. We do not see the belongings of the disease, neither do we see disease itself any more than we see life, mind, and or thought. For disease, in the last analysis, is primarily not primarily only an altered state of life and mind, manifesting itself in the morbid functions and sensation, which may or may not lead to the visible tissue changes. So what he says is very clear. Whenever this has to happen, there is an altered state of health, which is reflected in the state of disease and which reflects in the functional symptoms only. Because there is law of development of disease, called as law of biological law of disease. And what it is? It is very clear cut law. The function creates the organ. Functions first, there are first functions, and because of functions, the organs develop. The same is true if this is to happen, the functions gets altered first and then the tissue change. So every time, whenever disease has to happen, it never directly produces structural change. First, there are functional manifestations of it. And those functional manifestations, it persists for longer time of duration, then the changes in the cell starts, the tissue. Those are reflections of the disease. Those are not disease. These are the disease product. Disease is prior to it in the dynamic level. And that's why if you are treating any tumor, if you are treating any pathology, don't look toward the pathology as a symptom. Pathology is the end product. See what are the functional symptoms prior to this pathological product. What the patient was suffering earlier. Those are very essential because those reflects the individuality of that individual. All action is conditional. No force or agent acts unconditionally. Our collar illustration teaches that no pathogenic organism acts unconditionally. No germ or bacillus is sole or absolute cause of any disease, but only approximate or exciting cause under the certain condition. So here he is explaining very clear concept that no pathogen can produce the disease unless and until the conditions are favorable. So it is not comma bacillus will going to produce cholera unless and until conditions are favorable. It is only the proximate cause of the disease, not the real cause of the disease. Same is true for the typhoid, same is true for the tuberculosis, same is true for any pathogenic pathological disorder. When or it is for any communicable disease, infective disease, those are only prima causa morbi. So Salmonella typhi is a prima causa morbi of the typhoid. Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the only prima causa morbi of the tuberculosis. They are not the real causes of the disease. They are there inside the body for years together without causing any disease, without causing any disorder. Because the conditions are not favorable. Means because the disease state is not prior to it, which is present. If it is present, then these bacteria can produce the disorder, otherwise not. This concept should be very clear in your mind. No germs or bacillus is the sole or absolute cause of any disease, but only the proximate or exciting cause under certain conditions. Other predisposing, contributing antecedent causes must exist before the germ becomes operative. Numerous Klebsiella bacilli may be found in the throats of perfectly healthy people who have been in contact with the diphtheria patient. An examination of the nasal or pharyngeal secretions of anyone of us at this moment would probably reveal the presence of numerous pathogenic organisms from the inhaled dust of the street. But we are not thereby endangered beyond the ordinary chances of life because nature has her own means of protection against all such outside morbific influences. They are harmless to us in our normal condition because the element of morbid susceptibility to these particular germs is absent in great majority of individuals. The vital resisting power of the healthy individual is superior to the infective power of the bacilli and any other form of infecting agent under ordinary conditions. It has been well said that the best protection against the contagion is the good health. So this paragraph itself explains each and everything. What he says that whatever the way our body protects us is very important. The immune system is there, it works. If you are in state of health, nothing can disturb you. Even though you work for the people who are suffering from tuberculosis, who are suffering from the plague, who are suffering from chicken pox, who are suffering from any infective agent, your body never get, even though those bacilli, those bacteria, those viruses enters in your body, they never produce any variety of disease inside you because you are in the state of health. Till you are in the state of health, nothing can disturb you. And this is one must know. You are deceased prior to the bacilli. If you are deceased, then yes, definitely Salmonella typhi will going to produce in you a typhoid. Then definitely malarial parasite will going to produce malaria. Then dengue virus will going to produce the dengue. Otherwise, it's not. So these concepts should be very clear in your mind regarding those infective diseases. So disease is not the thing which will going to produce in this manner with the help of any material thing unless and until you are deceased first. So this is very important point which he has explained at the end. It has been well said that the best protection against contagion is a good health. And then he says, it behooves us, therefore, to understand what Hahnemann means by the sick in the first paragraph of the Organon, where he says the first and sole duty of the physician is to heal the sick. And what he means in the third paragraph, where he says that the physician should distinctly understand what is curable in the disease. So he takes the help of the organ and where he explained what is exactly mean by the sickness one must understand. Hahnemann in the first aphorism he explains the word the sick. And what he says, the physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure as it is termed. Here the concept of restoration of the sick to health, that is not only just removing the symptom but to the health where he was in the prior state. Here you have to bring that patient at that specific level. It is not just removing the fever and patient is debilitated, doesn't have strength. It is not a cure. It is not the physician's duty. Your duty is that patient should go again into the state of health where he was functioning. If you are able to achieve that, then only the sickness will disappear. Otherwise, it is not called to be a sickness, which it is not called to be a cure. So here he is taking the help of Organon. He is explaining concepts of Organon with this. And what he says last is very important. In the third paragraph, where he says the physician should distinctly understand what is curable in disease. So what is there to cure in the disease? It is not the pathological part which you have to treat. It is the disease which is there in the dynamics. It is that disease which you have to treat. And that is only possible when you understand it through the totality of the symptoms. It is through the understanding the human being. It is through the understanding of the diseased human being. And then if you are able to find it out, a remedy for that patient, it will cure that disease in the dynamic plane. So concepts of disease here he is trying to explain with his own way. And that's why Stuart Close philosophy is called to be one of the biggest, very important philosophy where he tries to make the concepts more and more clear in the people's mind. So that's all for today. Today we're going to finish this much only, and tomorrow we'll continue. Maybe, possibly tomorrow we might finish this chapter. And today evening at 8:15, we'll meet again with the one more remedy from the fourth year syllabus. So be there at 8:15. Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.